want. So there's a strong engagement both inside the company as well as with the customer in order to come with breakthrough value propositions that weren't possible before.
Yes, collaboration and imagination, two key words. Thank you. Peter, your last set of slides, please.
So it's all well and fine and interesting to see that technology is important, that we want to understand our customer better, but what are people really going to change in their daily life? That also was a question. And so the question here is, what are you going to do less and what are you going to favor going forward? Let's first look at the responses of the chief executive officers. And we asked, they had like 10 categories. Here are the top 3 things that changed to the positive and the bottom 3 things that changed to the negative. If you take the extremes, you see that CEOs say collectively we should spend much less time, and it's -7%, but on a very full agenda. You still have to maintain time. We should spend much less time on IT systems and operations, the basics, and we need to invest time massively in customer experience management. And so it will not come as a surprise that many people would agree to that. In particular, I mentioned them before, the chief marketing officers. But here a big compliment comes to our friends, the chief information officers, because they get that message even better. They do understand. Let's spend less time on the mundane, the day-to-day jobs. Find ways to not spend time and money on it and invest it massively. That's 15% of your 60, 70-hour work week. That's 68 hours per week on managing the customer experience and taking that time away day to day from the mundane things. With that, back to you, boss.
Thank you very much, Peter. Enlightening. Really nice to see that IT systems and operations are considered a commodity. Am I right, Mr. Hughes? Hardware, running things, that's a commodity, just like power and water.
I think more and more. I think it's also very important for the CIO to acknowledge that and to make sure that he also has a vision and an inspiration that it's all about the customer, because the way he acts and the way he forms teams from outside in, it's also important for his teams how they will develop and how they like Frans said, on a collaborative way, define and introduce new products or new services.
Okay. Mr. Zalm, do you agree about the time the CIO spends on this? But Peter just calculated a bit, 6 to 8 hours on client management, customer management a week for a CIO. Does that work, or does he need less time to do that in order to focus on the things he really has to do?
I'm afraid that for banks, and especially abnamro, systems will still be a major issue, because we really have to renovate our basic systems, and that will be a project which will take a few years. So probably Frans will just have to work longer, because he will have to spend more time also on the systems.
So, Mr. Mulders.
The answer is not a surprise.
But Mr. Biggers, it would be very retweet to ask this to Mr. Mulders. Do you feel your time is changing, your work days are changing in that respect, as we just saw from the CIO study?
Absolutely. I think absolutely. Currently we have something new still in legacy, but I think it will be over in 1 or 2 years' time, and then we can invest more and more to the customer. And another thing we have in our situation is that with the operation of trains, there's a lot of also IT in that to make that more successful. So that's another area we also have to invest in a lot.
Yeah, I already asked a bit, but drilling a bit deeper, what should you do less in the near future? What can be left to other units within the business units within the company?
Well, it's not in the business units, more outside Dutch railway. So what we're doing, we're now implementing a cloud platform where we will migrate all our applications to the cloud. So that gives also more easiness also in running that IT operation.
Mr. Kirchting, what should the CIO leave to others in the future?
A very good question, because you're still responsible for it, so you can never outsource your responsibility. But I think indeed we have apparently set up an ecosystem as suppliers and customers, and apparently that's very labor intensive. So if we want to give more to vendors, it also means that we need to do that in a more efficient way and also in a more reliable way. Because still today we see that as a CIO you often have to step into operational